welcome back. Today I am here to tell you about what I believe to be the single most important tool that you can have in your arsenal when you are traveling to Merida, Mexico, or to any country. So let's get right into this. So because we want to be responsible travelers, the single most important tool that I'm talking about is travel insurance. Now, some of you may have not thought that you needed travel insurance before. You know, it's easy to think nothing's going to happen, but trust and believe, if you're anything like me, I have some of the craziest accidents, and sometimes I just wind up getting sick everywhere I go, and travel insurance for me has been a blessing. So today I'm here to talk to you about travel insurance, and I'm going to tell you some of my crazy little mishaps and how travel insurance benefited me. So when we're doing our vacation planning, the last thing that we want to do is add more money to our total costs, right? However, if you get sick or if you have an accident, and even if it's a small accident or a minor illness, you're still adding more money to your budget, because what happens when you travel overseas, there may or may not be some places that will accept, in an emergency situation, your health insurance from back home, but the majority of the time you're going to pay out of pocket for that care. And it doesn't really matter, in my opinion, if you go to a country where the healthcare costs are very low. Don't you want your money back? I do. I want every dime I got coming to me. I don't want to spend any extra money on things that I just didn't plan for. So there are a lot of various travel companies out there that offer travel insurance, and my best advice to you is do your research, because it really does matter which company you choose according to whether you have pre-existing conditions or whether you like to engage in certain activities that are deemed to be risky, such as jet skiing, four-wheeling, mountain climbing, rock climbing, scuba diving. Those sometimes are excluded from certain companies. So you're gonna want to do a check for all of the different companies and see which one is gonna fit your needs the best. So here's my first little story about my little accident. So in the Bahamas, you know those big giant banana looking things that you ride on, pulled by a speedboat, right? They call them banana boats. So getting on this ride, I make sure I tell the driver, hey, we want the wildest ride you can give us, right? And he was like, okay. So he did. What he did was he took us against the waves, against the current or whatever, which really made this thing bump really hard. And I had to really hold on for dear life, right? And to the point that I was in tears towards the last 10 minutes of this ride. And I was telling my son, who was with me at the time, I was like, I'm gonna let go and I'm just gonna fall off and I'll probably drown, but I can't hold on any longer, you know. And he was just like, Mommy, please just hold on. So, of course I wound up in the emergency room. Why? Because my arms, from all that repetitive movement, my arms swole up like Arnold Schwarzenegger, probably maybe 3 times bigger than my arm is already. And they were stuck in this position. I could not stretch my arms out like this. I could not do this. And I could not put them down at my sides. I literally had to walk around like this. Now, trying to put on deodorant was one of these situations. Trying to comb my hair was doing like this. And I couldn't even put a bra on. I couldn't go to work. I couldn't put my bra on. I couldn't put my shirt on. There was just so many things that I couldn't do. And of course I wound up in the emergency room. And they told me that I wound up like really damaging, not damaging, but I inflamed all of the muscles and the tendons in my forearms, and that's why they swole up so big, and I was not able to move my arms. I was literally stuck like a chicken, okay? I'm telling you, all kind of crazy things really happened to me. And at that time, I did not have travel insurance. I wound up with a pretty nice, because I didn't go back to the hospital until I got to the US. I wound up with a pretty nice ER bill. So once I start buying travel insurance, I found that the company Allianz really works well for me. Now, Allianz also offers a yearly program for people who travel quite a bit. If you happen to be the type of person that wants to do the activities that I mentioned before, World Nomads is a very good company that people usually use when they engage in those risky types of activities. And then there's another company, if I'm not mistaken, called Safety Wing, okay? So let me tell you why I chose Allianz. Like I said, they're good for pre-existing conditions, and here is the very important thing that you need to pay attention to. If you have pre-existing conditions, it doesn't matter what it is, whether you got diabetes, high blood pressure, kidney issues, liver issues, respiratory problems, you have panic attacks, whatever. You only have a certain amount of time from the very first travel arrangement that you book and pay for, that's non-refundable, to buy this travel insurance policy. And I think with Allianz, if I'm not mistaken, it is 14 days. And that means, so say for instance, you're going to come into Merida. So you buy your plane ticket. You have 14 days from the date you buy that plane ticket in order to purchase that travel insurance, in order for it to cover any pre-existing conditions. So if you don't buy it within that time, and let's say you have respiratory issues, and then you come to Merida and have an asthma attack and you need to go to the ER, if you didn't buy that policy, even though you have a policy, if you didn't buy it within those 14 days, and they look at your previous medical records, because nothing is private anymore, then they see that you already have a diagnosis of asthma, they're going to deny your claim. So that is a very important point that you need to make. Now, travel insurance covers a wide variety of things. It will cover hospitalizations, urgent cares, medications that you receive. It will also cover things like trip cancellation, trip interruption, baggage loss, baggage damaged. If you canceled your trip, not only because you became ill, but a close family member like your mother, your father, your husband, one of your children. And the prices vary. And I'm going to tell you, like I said, most people don't want to spend extra money when you're going on a vacation. So let's just say you figured out your total vacation is going to be maybe $3,000, $4,000. And you're like, I don't want to add another couple $100 onto that, right? But I will tell you, I think the most cost that I have spent on travel insurance has been less than $300. I went on a 30-day trip to maybe about 6 different countries. And my travel insurance policy for that period that covered me had to be maybe $270, $280. So that's not bad to add on for the assurance to know that if anything happens to you, you're going to be able to get your money back. And these are for non-refundable costs. So if you buy that non-refundable ticket, if you book excursions with a tour operator that you can't get your money back, hotel rooms that you book that are non-refundable, because nowadays you're booking on hotels.com or bookings.com or whatever, and then they have one price for a non-refundable room, and then of course they jack the price up if you want a refund. And the same goes with plane tickets. So a lot of times, to keep the cost down, you are buying those non-refundable modes of travel and non-refundable hotel rooms. I mean, you know, it is what it is. Unless you got long money, that's what most of us do. So in 2019, I made my very first trip to Thailand. It was just for 3 weeks. And the day I arrived, I got there maybe 10 o'clock in the morning or something, and I went out and started exploring. The next morning I got up and I went back out and started exploring, and I arrived to my hotel maybe, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 o'clock. Within an hour, I needed to go to the emergency room, and I was hospitalized for 3 days. That time period that I went to Thailand was the season where the smog is really bad at that time. And I guess just the change in the atmosphere, the breathing and all that smog just didn't sit well with me. And I have asthma, so I noticed that my breathing was becoming worse and worse as the hours went by. Just know that, like I said, a lot of times you have to pay up front or, you know, at discharge for your medical costs. So I've seen countless news articles when I was living in Thailand of foreigners that have went to Thailand and been in like some pretty bad accidents, and they wound up having to get GoFundMe's. Travel insurance is not going to pay for your stay. You're still going to need money to pay for that, whether it's cash, whether you use a credit card, or however you pay for it. They're not going to pay up front. They will reimburse you, okay? But there are some travel insurance policies that will pay maybe up to $1,000 up front so they can get you treated. Just know you need to read the fine print. So when you go on the travel insurance website, they're going to have all the packages, and they're going to have all these numbers next to the different things that they cover, like trip interruption. Maybe they'll cover you for $5,000 or blah, blah, blah. But you still got to read the fine print. And the way to do that is you're going to have to download the PDF of the details of each policy, because case in point, one person that I read about in Thailand, it was a young man who rented a motorbike, which is typical when you're in the islands of Thailand to just drive around. He saw that, yes, this travel insurance policy did cover a motorbike, so he rented a motorbike. He got hit by a car. Well, the travel insurance denied him because he didn't read the fine print. Yes, it did cover a motorcycle or a motorbike, but it only covered up to 125cc bike. And this gentleman rented a 150cc bike, so they denied him. So you have to read the fine print. So my hospital stay came up to $2,700, I think. When I got home, I sent all my paperwork into Allianz through the portal online, and if I'm not mistaken, I got a paper check, but it came within like 7 days. I was surprised, and they reimbursed me all but maybe $30 or something. And then I cheated, y'all. I cheated because I'm a veteran, so I submitted the paperwork to the foreign medical program, and the VA reimbursed me too. So basically I got paid to be sick, okay? It worked out in my favor, but don't tell nobody. Now, here's another thing. Like I said, you have to pay up front. I mean, they can't hold you hostage, and they're not gonna tie you to the hospital bed, but what they may do is hold your passport. Okay, so you can't leave the country if you don't pay. The second thing they'll do, if you have your passport, you'll get to the airport and you'll go to immigration for them to stamp you out of the country, and when they looking in that little computer, a flag will pop up, and we're not stamping you out the country, you owe money. So they'll have somebody come get you, and I don't know what they're gonna do with you, probably put you in some type of temporary holding facility or something until you figure that out and you get that money paid. Another thing that is extremely important is that if you have to go to the hospital, the doctor, the urgent care, buy medication, whatever that is related to your condition, you need to ask for a itemized bill before you leave the hospital or the urgent care or the doctor's office. It needs to be very detailed with your diagnosis, any type of medications or treatments or testing that they did, and it also has to be signed by the doctor, and then you're going to need a receipt of how you paid for it. If you pay by credit card, you'll have that little credit card receipt, that comes out the machine. So as I said, I'm either a magnet for injuries or some type of illness, right? When I was in Thailand, before I left, which was, well, the beginning of this year, I got bit by a cheetah, okay? Thankfully, he didn't bite me that hard and break the skin, but he bruised me. But it could have turned out pretty bad because he could have took a chunk out of my leg, okay? So I didn't have travel insurance because I was a resident of Thailand at the time. But there's a lot of people that do go visit and they go and do, like I said, these risky activities. Well, you want to be covered, okay? Then another mishap that I had, I got smashed in between two boats. Got on one of the long-tail boats, went to an island, got off, went to get back on the boat, and the water was really rough at that time. So it's, here's the two boats and I'm in the middle and I'm trying to climb up this little ladder to get onto my boat. Well, in the meantime, this boat over here decides it wants to smash into the other boat because of the waves, and Malika's in the middle, right? So it really messed my leg up. Like it tore some skin all down my shin. And actually, if you go back and look through some of my videos, you'll see some of these mishaps. Another thing that happened was when I went to Vietnam, and my guide decided that we were going to climb to the bottom of a waterfall, which was basically going downhill through mud, slippery rocks, and all kind of things. Well, I didn't plan for this, so I did it in Converse. The very next day, I left and went back to Thailand, and I had to go to the emergency room because I tore the tendons in my foot. I could not put any weight on my foot, and the whole top of my foot swole up, and I couldn't even put a shoe on, or like a closed shoe in. So you say, okay, travel insurance is for traveling to a location, but what if I'm moving to a location? Is travel insurance available to me? It depends. You need to check the company to see if they have one-way insurance. Now, the one-way insurance is not going to last you a year, 2 years, whatever. It's going to be for a specific time frame, and it may only be available to you for 30 days, maybe 2 weeks. I'm not exactly sure because I've never did a one-way insurance, but I can tell you this. Even if it's only good for 2 weeks, it's beneficial to have because you're moving to a new climate, a new location with different greenery. You don't know how your body's going to react to that. Merida is extremely hot. Most people will not be moving here with a vehicle. So you may take for granted this heat and get out and get gung-ho and start walking around because you want to see everything, and then wind up dehydrated and in the ER having to get fluid. So I did purchase travel insurance at this one time when I went, which was my worst accident. I went skydiving. Yeah, and as I've said before in my previous videos, I am retired. I'm very happily retired, but that was not by choice, okay? The first thing that people worry about when they go skydiving is the chute gonna open, right? You never think, is the plane gonna crash on the way up? You may not even make it to that point to jump out of the plane because the plane might crash. And after the chute opens, if you do get that far, you never think about anything past that. Well, let me tell you what happened. My tandem jump instructor had this brilliant idea to unhook my harness while my bottom half of my harness while we're like 15,000 feet up in the air, okay? And he rehooked it because he wanted me to be able to have like a seat to sit down. And he explained to me that we're going to land sitting and skid across the grass. Now, a lot of people land like that, no problem. They land softly and they skid. Some people land on their feet. I think it all depends on how much you weigh and how much the instructor or the tandem jump person weighs, right? Well, your girl, this me, that's how I landed, like a sack of damn potatoes. I think I had to hit that ground at 25 miles an hour. I know I did. You could probably hear my screams of pain 100 miles away. I bucked up straight because the pain shot from my tip of my toes all the way to the top of my head, and I couldn't sit down. I don't know how that worked because I was able to eventually, once the pain started to subside, I was able to get up and walk, but I couldn't sit. So I had to fly. One, I had the rental car and I had to drive and then from the place and return the rental car the next day in order to go back home. And then I had to fly on the plane. So I had to sit like this, totally all the way on my hip, almost laying on one side of my body because I just could not put any weight on my backside, on my tailbone, and on the back of my legs, okay? I worked 4 months maybe, and I was on intermittent FMLA so that once it got to be too much, I can just say, hey, I gotta go home, and it would be not, I wouldn't be penalized. The pain was so bad that 10 minutes, washing dishes, cooking dinner, brushing my teeth, combing my hair in the grocery store, I was in tears. That's how much pain that I had. But when I got back to the US, I went straight to the emergency room. They said that I had a bruised tailbone, but nothing was broken, that they thought because they couldn't really see well because it was so much edema and inflammation in my back that the x-rays really wouldn't show very well. So fast forward maybe about a week, I went back, some of the edema subsided, and they found I had 2 hairline fractures to my spine. And like I said, since 2014, December 2014, I haven't worked a day since. Now, thankfully, 1, I lost quite a bit of weight, and 2, I started having procedures done to my back where they burn the nerves, which interrupt the pain signals. So that kind of helped. And I need back surgery, but I'm putting that off, trying to do as much as I can before I get to that point. But the point is that could have turned out really, really bad, me smashing into the ground like that. And the travel insurance, all of my costs that I absorbed, reimbursed me. And like I said, I like my money. So whatever I'm spending, I want it back. If I can get it back, I want it back. And just know, this is the FYI, before you travel, because I'm telling you, we get hyped up when we travel. We just want to do this and do that. And we're going to Dubai and I want to skydive over the Palm Jumeirah or yada, yada, yada. Or I'm going to go dune bashing. You need to read your life insurance policy. Because if something happens to you, say you die in a skydiving accident, for instance, God forbid, your life insurance policy is done. It doesn't matter if you've been paying on that thing 20 years and you got 6 kids. That's the reason why you bought the policy, to take care of your family when you're gone. That life insurance policy is done because most of them will not cover risky activities like that. So always, before you go and go do stuff like that, make sure you check your life insurance policy too. That's just another tip from me. So y'all, just to summarize this, you're coming to Merida for a visit, a scouting trip. You just like to come to Merida to hang out. You never know what's gonna happen. You never know if you're gonna get sick. You never know if that D driver, that Uber driver had a little liquor at lunchtime and gets in an accident. Maybe you need your appendix taken out. Some of that spicy food that you're eating didn't agree with you and it inflamed your pancreas or something, I don't know. Anything can happen. It, in my opinion, is worth spending an extra $100 for a policy, an extra $75, an extra $200 to have that peace of mind knowing that if anything happens to me, maybe, yeah, I gotta pay up front, I understand that, but I'm gonna get my money back when I get home. And if you don't have the money and you gotta call family or friends and say, you know, I just had to have my appendix taken out and that was $3,000 and I don't have the money to pay for that. Can you send me the $3,000? At least with the travel insurance policy, you can let your family or whoever, your friends that lent you that money know that when I get back, I'm gonna submit for reimbursement and I'm gonna be able to give you your money back. You're not out of your money. So guys, I hope that this was informational to you. As always, keep moving. Talk to you later. Bye.